30-06 John here, and today what we're going to be doing is loading up some 450 Bushmaster. So keep on watching and I hope you enjoy the video. Today I'm loading up some factory equivalent loads with this Hornady FTX 250 grain bullet. But also I'm going to experiment with this 200 grain FTX bullet. And we'll see how that shoots. The other components I'm using, Lil'Gun powder. I've had pretty good success with this in a 450 Bushmaster. I'm using all Hornady small primer pocket brass. I hear that they have some large primer pocket brass out there. I'm not using that. And I'm using Remington 7.5 bench rest primers. This bullet right here, the Hornady FTX 250 grain, this is what the original Hornady factory load uses. They still sell it, of course, so that bullet is made for the 450 Bushmaster. This bullet right here, this 200 grain FTX, this was actually made for the 460 Smith & Wesson. So it's made for high velocity. The velocity range in the Hornady manual goes up to 2200 feet per second for this bullet. Hornady makes another bullet, a 225 grain FTX bullet. It's for the 45 Colt. That's only rated up to, I think, 1600 feet per second. So this bullet pushed at 450 Bushmaster velocity should be okay for deer hunting. Hopefully, since it is a higher velocity, a little bit longer range bullet for the 460, it's also pretty accurate. I've never really tried this before. We'll see how it works. An issue with this bullet is that it has a cannular. So I don't really want to taper crimp right over the cannular. So I'll probably load these a little bit longer and crimp it right where it's all solid here. Load data, I'm using the Hodgdon 2023 reloading magazine. They have the Hornady 200 grain FTX bullet listed, but only with ram shot and accurate powders. For Hodgdon powders, they have the 225 grain Hornady FTX, which I think they're pushing that bullet too fast. So it says here, the starting load of 38 grains of Lil'Gun for the 225 grain. I'll start with 39 grains with the 200 grain FTX. We'll see how that shoots. I'll be using a Hornady 4-die die set. This is not a carbide die set, but it does have a separate taper crimp die for crimping the rounds. I'll be using my Lee turret press today. I'm not trimming the brass, but I am checking it for overall length. This brass just barely fits in there using the 1.7 inches that the Hornady guide recommends. This brass has a little bit of play there, so I'll be using this one. And I'll be weighing each charge on this Lyman electronic scale. There's no secret in reloading 450 Bushmaster, except for maybe how much crimp to put on. And what I've found is that when you put a crimp on, you should definitely feel quite a bit of effort when you put that on. It shouldn't be a real light crimp. You want a firm crimp. You want to crimp right into that bullet here. Let me see if I can get this closer. If you look there along this cartridge around, you can see that crimp at the very top of the case mouth. And I didn't crimp into the cannular, but I'm just below it. The rifle I'll be using today is my Ruger American Ranch Rifle 450 Bushmaster. I have a Leopold 1.5-5 scope on it. One thing I did do to this rifle is I took the muzzle brake off. I just don't like that muzzle blast. It seems to make the gun a tad more accurate also. It doesn't really reduce the recoil that much, so 2166. Here's my target from the range. Shot at 100 yards. 16-inch barrel. Let's zoom in, take a look at some stuff. This load is like the factory equivalent. 250 grain FTX, 38 grains of Lil'Gun. Cartridge overall length is 2.25. That's just a little bit larger than what the Hornady manual states. 3-shot group of 1.25 inch. Velocity, I've chronographed this before in the past, of 2,175 feet per second. This is our 200 grain FTX load, 39 grains of Lil'Gun, same primer, cartridge overall length of 2.230. That's the overall length since I was crimping right below the cannula where the metal was, the jacket was solid. I did crimp to 0.476, but like I said, it took quite a bit of effort to crimp it. My average velocity was 2,239 feet per second, which is fine. Let me move this down. But the only thing is that the extreme spread from highs to low velocity was sort of high, 181 feet per second difference. That's more than I would like to see. But I shot a 3-shot group of 1.5 inches. That's not bad. That's pretty decent. The high power on this scope is a 5 power. And I think that's limiting me a little bit on the accuracy. You know, my eyes are getting a little bit old here. And I think a little bit more magnification. I could shoot a little bit tighter. One good thing about this load is that it has quite a bit less recoil than the 250 grain load. I ran the numbers and it has anywhere from a 13 to a 23% recoil reduction depending on what recoil parameter you're looking at. Impulse or velocity or energy. That's all that I have for today. Thanks everyone for watching and stay safe.